our distinguished speaker and guest of honor, Mr. Chee Hong Tat, Minister for Transport and Second Minister for Finance, our third honorary fellow, former Prime Minister and Emeritus Senior Minister, Mr. Goh Chok Tong, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to this year's Economic Society of Singapore annual dinner. This year marks the 68th year since the founding of the Economic Society of Singapore. As most of you would have known, the Society is a non-profit organization of economists, professionals, academicians, and policymakers with great interest in economics. Established since 1956, the Society's primary objective is to raise public awareness and stimulate public interest and debate on economic issues. The Society had participated in providing important inputs for various government initiatives such as the Forward Future Economy, the White Paper on Population, the Economic Strategies Committee, the CPF Policy Changes Study, and the policy options for the Singapore economy. The Society had also provided a platform for discussions on the annual Singapore government budget by organizing a panel workshop post-budget annually. The Society also publishes the academic journal, the Singapore Economic Review. Our journal is indexed in all major economic indices, including the Social Sciences Citation Index. In fact, the Singapore Economic Review is one of the only few journals based in Asia to be indexed in the SSCI. Our journal's readership had risen to by more than 200% year-on-year since 2021. Now, complementing the Singapore Economic Review is the Society's Economic Bulletin. It is found on your chair and distributed at every annual dinner. This is an outlet for the general public, with each publication focusing on select themes. Last year's theme was on man and aging. And for this year, man and generations. We are delighted that one of the contributors to this year's bulletin, Dr. Wee Kee Beng, who is the Executive Director of the Penang Institute, is with us tonight. We also note and remember fondly the contribution by our former Society President, Professor Lim Chong Yah, who had sadly passed away last year. In actively promoting a series of activities and events, the Society has drawn economic players from students to members of the profession in the academia, the government, and the corporate sectors. A testament to this is the Society's Singapore Economic Policy Forum, which is held annually in October. A leading platform for economic policy discussion in Singapore, the forum allows for the exchange of views on contemporary economics issues facing Singapore and Asia. The three universities, NTU, NUS, and SMU, and the fourth arrival of SUSS takes turn to organize this forum with the Society. Past forums have focused on economic and public issues to social issues, including changing economic winds, aggregate employment, financial sector reforms, the Singapore economy, economic relations with ASEAN, China, and specifically also with Malaysia and the social safety nets. The 15th Singapore Economic Policy Forum was co-organized with NTU last year, and the theme was Determinants of the Quality of Life in Singapore. The guest of honor and keynote speaker then was Mr. Ong Ye Kung, Minister for Health. The forum featured 7 sessions with speakers from all 4 universities. An inaugural ESS MOH forum was organized in collaboration with the Ministry of Health. And this forum was held in November last year at the Voco Orchard. The theme was the economics of healthcare in Singapore, funding high-priced therapies and driving value-based care. The speakers included medical doctors and economists. The Society participated also in the 46th Federation of ASEAN Economic Association conference, which was organized by the Indonesian Economic Society in Yogyakarta, Indonesia in November last year. The conference theme was Empowering Collaboration to Shape ASEAN Economic Sustainability. The Young Professionals Career Wing is now in its 11th year. This initiative aims to attract young economists to participate in the society's activities and at the same time bring in fresh and new ideas to further develop and diversify the society's mainstream activities into relevant and contemporary issues of the young. The activities of this group include informal gatherings and social interactions among themselves, talks with guest speakers and invitees from seniors and well-known professionals in government and industry, with the occasional appearances by distinguished academia. Past year saw the Youth Wing organizing major summit revolving around the themes of conflict effects on the global economy. With ongoing global conflicts and shifting world order, various economic challenges such as inflation, deglobalization, supply chain disruptions, and financial instability are reshaping our future. The session had an insightful discussion on how these factors will significantly impact the evolving shape of the economy in this complex world. I welcome those of you in the audience tonight who are young professional economists, and I see quite many of you are here, to join us in this endeavor to further rejuvenate this society. Many of you might be curious to know who can qualify to be a member of the Young Professionals Career Wing. I'm often asked this question, and at every annual dinner, I will reply the same way. I will say, well, he or she will be between ages 25 to 35, but let's not quibble about whether those in the age group of 35 and slightly above qualify or not, as we can make exceptions. However, we will draw the line at those who consider themselves young at heart. Now, the society continues to place a strong emphasis on education and nurturing young talents. The society's education committee actively engages our teachers and students of economics through the annual Junior College Seminar Series, in which professional economists and university academicians participate as speakers on various contemporary economic issues. The Outstanding Economics Teacher Award was launched in 2019 and is usually presented to the winning recipients during the Singapore Economic Policy Forum in October. Besides recognizing outstanding economic teachers, the awards also promote the sharing of best practices by these outstanding teachers and encourage economic teachers to achieve professional excellence. I would like to thank the Ministry of Education's Curriculum Planning and Development Division, who have provided much support, inputs, and the administrative details whilst the setting up of this award. I would also like to thank World Scientific Publishing Firm and Dr. Gunter Duffy, one of our council members, who has been sponsoring the cash award to be used for professional development of these teachers. I am sad to inform you that Dr. Gunter Duffy had just passed away in May this year. We remember his generosity and dedication to the society for the many years he had served as both an ordinary member and later as a council member. The society also organizes student essay competitions with the original sponsorship, which has continued to this day, by the Monetary Authority of Singapore. Gold medal awards also for outstanding graduates in economics at all our tertiary institutions, and study tours were also supported by society. We have also launched the inaugural MOH and CCCS essay competitions earlier this year. MOH with Econ Society competition focuses on resource allocation in Singapore's healthcare system and aims to discourse on health economics in Singapore. The Competition and Consumer Commission of Singapore addresses the topic, how should competition and consumer protection rules evolve in the age of artificial intelligence? Through the essay competitions and the other activities, society would further its aim in encouraging members of the public, and particularly the youth, to learn about the role of economic thought and analysis in public policies in Singapore. In recent years, essay competitions were also launched together with the National Climate Change Secretariat and also another with the Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore. Now, in early this year, we held the ESS post-budget discussion, the ASEAN +3 Regional Economic Outlook on Navigating Tomorrow, in collaboration with Amro Bank and ESSEC. We also partnered with the Competition and Consumer Commission of Singapore for the second roundtable talks on competition and the supplier network resilience. Looking ahead, the Economic Society of Singapore is committed to engaging all the stakeholders and the public on the latest economic and policy issues. The forthcoming 16th Singapore Economic Policy Forum is organized this year in conjunction with the Singapore Management University, and the theme is on opportunities amidst challenges. Among the topics discussed are the impact of AI on education, the changing needs of curriculum in tertiary education, global uncertainty and risks, Sino-US competition and regional security issues, geo-economic warfare and impact on Singapore business, addressing and anticipating future risks, preventing social polarization, AI in the labor market, and more. So this will be held this year in October. Now, the 47th FAEA conference will be hosted by Thailand and organized by the Thai Economic Society, and which will be held in November, in which the society will participate. The society's goal is to stay relevant to public life in all our events, and we are looking forward to your continued support. There are many activities organized by the society throughout the year, and this can be found in the President's report each year. For those of you who wish to know more about society, join us, visit our website, and we appreciate suggestions and constructive ideas to further strengthen and enliven the society's mission and activities. So those of you who are interested, please get in touch with us. Economics is a study of how society manages its scarce resources among competing demands. Such a definition places economics in both the realms of the social sciences and the decision sciences. As such, economics is not just about investment, finance, and banking. It is also about making everyday decisions, such as purchasing groceries, major decisions whether to buy a car or take public transport, where to live, what to study, jobs to consider, and important life decisions such as who to marry, when to marry, and how many children to produce. Likewise, firms need to decide what to produce, how much to produce, when to produce, should we subcontract, where to produce. Governments need to effectively allocate public funds to public infrastructure and services such as public safety, transport, education, pollution mitigation, and so on. Now, in all these activities, it is necessary to involve the economic thinking of scarcity, choices, and trade-offs. The Singapore economy continues to face strong headwinds, and newer issues emerge. And this will test the ongoing structural socio-economic developments of preparedness, resilience, and inclusiveness in Singapore in many of these issues. Again, all this involves understanding of scarcity, choices, and trade-offs. So economics as a discipline remains instrumental for society at large. On 18th of August this year, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong delivered the National Day Rally speech where he ventured beyond the economy and emphasized major resets in Singapore's policies to address evolving society's needs and challenges, in addition to continued support for existing economic policies. He touched on the expanding support to workers by creating better jobs, helping them to adapt and reskill as the economy and society continues to evolve. Areas of education, family, and housing will also receive renewed attention and investment. Now, the crafting and design of policies must always bear in mind their implementation. In economics, we often use the term transaction costs. Thus, no matter how good a policy is, if the transaction cost prevents its implementation, then it is really not a feasible policy. In a way, as the former permanent secretary for the various ministries, Mr. Peter Ho, had said, policy is implementation and implementation is policy. The respect accorded to a discipline depends in the last resort on its power to serve society. Economics that is entirely positive might be regarded as a prestigious intellectual pursuit, but it would not command the respect of the public nor, if I might say, with governments. Therefore, if one observes that economics appears today to be held in high esteem, it is simply because economics is, after all, a normative study, one that informs social policy. Economic growth, high employment, price stability are objectives common for all governments, and as such, prescriptive economics backed by good theory and empirical evidence will not diminish over the future. Economics must continue to be relevant to society and lend a voice to topical and sometimes contentious real-world issues. In approaching complex social issues such as inequality, economics would be open to dialogue within the discipline and with other disciplines. Economics must be inclusive for it to be taught and practiced with consideration of how it can solve real-world problems. So the bottom line is that to me, economics must continue to be relevant to public life. And that is the founding goal of the Economic Society of Singapore, and one that must be upheld, in my view, in every event that society engages in. And this goal cannot be emphasized more amidst the current turbulent times. As today's economic problems become increasingly complex, I was reminded by my assistant time and time again that my speeches are too long. Therefore, I would like to close by thanking the Society's members and sponsors for this evening's dinner, especially to all of you, our corporate members, and to whom everyone present for your generous support. I would also like to thank my predecessor presidents of the Society, 3 of whom are present in tonight's dinner: Dr. Teh Kok Peng, Professor Basan Kapoor, and Dr. Koh Ho Ee, seated right here at the front, for their immensely important role in building up this society at its various stages of development, and supported by an able council with an efficient secretary headed by Ms. Vivian Tan. And finally, to Singapore, which recently celebrated the 59th year of independence, may we continue to achieve happiness, prosperity, and progress for our nation. Now, as you all know, the annual dinner series is a very important one for society. Distinguished speakers in past Society's events included former Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, who is our 4th Honorary Fellow, former Deputy Prime Minister, and newly elected 9th President of the Republic of Singapore, Mr. Tharman Shanmugaratnam, former Prime Minister and Minister Mentor, the late Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, former President, Mr. Tony Tan Keng Yam, Ms. Ho Ching, former CEO of Temasek Holdings, Mr. Timothy Geithner, former United States Secretary of Treasury, Professor Edward Lazier, former Chairman of the US Presidential Council of Economic Advisors, Deputy Prime Minister and our 6th Honorary Fellow, Mr. Heng Swee Keat, Minister for Education, Ms. Chan Chun Sing, Mr. Ravi Menon, Managing Director of the MAS, and last year's guest of honor, former Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Lawrence Wong, and now Prime Minister of Singapore. Since our guest of honor today is the Minister for Transport, let me just touch on the role of economics in transport policies. Economics provides tools for assessment and evaluation of transport infrastructure investments and helps to understand the impacts of non-market aspects, such as on the environment. As with most things, economics helps to bridge efficiency with equity, ensuring that transportation systems are accessible, affordable, and sustainable for all segments of society. Transport economics is integral to the adoption of EV, electrical vehicles, in Singapore in the coming years, and it is necessary to understand the costs and benefits of such a transition. Similarly, the driverless future is also upon us. However, I would like to stress that it is not all about technology. Economics is very involved on 2 fronts. 1 is on assessing the costs and benefits of such new systems, and 2, whether consumers buy in to these new developments. We cannot take consumer behavior and attitudes for granted. If driverless future and EVs, for example, bring about a more efficient transport system, the government can intervene in the market and nudge people to embrace these new developments, changing the mindsets, and this is where behavioral economics comes into play. In fact, one of my current PhD students, Mr. Zack Lee, is doing his thesis exactly on this topic. Now, it is now my privilege and honor to introduce and say a few words on our guest of honor and keynote speaker, Mr. Chee Hong Tat, whom I knew when I was a board member of the Energy Market Authority, and Mr. Chee was then the CEO. Mr. Chee Hong Tat was appointed Minister for Transport and Second Minister for Finance on 18th of January this year. He was first elected as a Member of Parliament for Bishan Toa Payoh Group Representation Constituency in 2015 and was re-elected during the 2020 general elections. He also serves as Deputy Chairman of the Monetary Authority of Singapore Board of Directors and as an advisor to the Board of Directors Business Asia. He was also Deputy Secretary General at the National Trade Union Congress. And prior to this, Mr. Chee had served as Senior Minister of State for Health, Communications and Information, Education, Trade and Industry, and Foreign Affairs. Mr. Chee graduated from the University of California at Berkeley in 1996 with a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, and also a Bachelor of Arts in Economics, both receiving highest honors. He obtained his Masters of Business Administration from the University of Adelaide in 2006. He also received the Distinguished Service Award from the National Trade Union Congress in April 2021 and was conferred an honorary fellow by the Institution of Engineers in Singapore in January 2023. So tonight we welcome Mr. Chee Hong Tat, our guest of honor, who is also an economist, just as Mr. Goh Chok Tong is also an economist. So I'm very happy to have two known economists of our government here tonight. Mr. Chee, please.